Welcome to the Progtalks by the Progspace. Welcome to the Progtalks, an interview series by the Progspace where we will be talking to musicians in all corners of the progressive music scene.
Welcome back to another episode of the Progtalks. I'm your host Dario, and as always, if you want to support us, don't forget to get us a cup of coffee or tea, and you can also get yourself a very, very fancy mug or any other merch in our store, in our web shop. And now without further ado, I want to welcome Morgan Reid on the show, calling from Leipzig, I guess.
Yes, I am currently in Leipzig.
That's not too far from here. I'm sitting in Munich.
Oh, nice.
Well, you are originally from Canada, right?
Yes, from Toronto.
So, in relative comparison, Leipzig is close, even though it's still a couple of hours drive. Morgan, you got a new or your debut solo EP out today as we speak. Actually, it's called Terran, and it's full of heavy instrumental guitar prog metal.
Yes.
How did this happen? I mean, you are a member of Bloodshot, a UK based band, and since 2015, and you released one album with them, Reanimation, in 2018, and I guess you've been touring a lot until 2020.
Indeed.
We all know what happened then. So I'm curious, of course, was this new solo venture, is this a child of the pandemic years or did you kind of work towards it for a longer time already, or did you have it in mind to do it at one point? Just took the opportunity.
No, I know. I understand what you're saying. No, it's actually not a child of the pandemic. That's not at all. That had nothing to do with the reason for me writing this album. Which seems interesting because obviously a pandemic is a perfect time to write a solo album. Being in isolation, your guitars are, they have strong immune systems, so you can hang out with them. And I did do a lot of that. I did do a lot of playing in that time, of course. I think it's a nice time for self-reflection and also working on the songs for sure. But it's not the reason why I worked towards this album. I think I've actually always come from that mentality of writing because I've been somebody who's moved around a lot. I left home when I was like 18 to move to Europe, and I just found like music was something I kind of built up as a kind of hobby, pastime, and something obviously that I very soon realized I would like to do like professionally, if that makes sense. But it was definitely something that evolved around me, and my like relationship with the guitar and trying to master it and just eventually turn into songwriting. And it's just been something that's just kind of guided me through my life. And I think the solo album, I've written a lot of solo songs in the past, and I've done some competitions in the past, which was a good place for me to showcase my solo songs, let's say. And I really loved it, and that's actually what got me into Bloodshot in the first place. Like I had been kind of known as being a good solo guitarist, and I had written some songs, and I just fit really well into the band after their guitarist left to Scar Symmetry.
Not a bad place to leave.
No. I'm kind of jealous. I would have loved to have just gone straight there. If you guys know me out there, I'm a big Per Nilsson fan, and we're actually very good friends. And he just shared my video on Facebook, so I was super happy. I was like, "Thank you, Per. Thank you." Or Pod. Sorry, I always say his name wrong, but that's the crux of having a Canadian accent and not a Swedish one. So it's not from the pandemic. It's been a long time coming, and I definitely have to say, Bloodshot and all kinds of other stuff got in the way. So I wasn't able to release, I've been talking about releasing something as a solo artist for 10 years. So it does feel like a very momentous occasion right now, for sure.
Wonderful. apart from those two musical endeavors we already talked about a lot here in the last couple of minutes, you also have your very own dance production company with your wife, Phase Zero Productions, and where you also sometimes compose music for.
Pretty much always, actually. Pretty much always. Quite some lengthy long evening productions, like 1 hour of music or something like that.
Continuous music, probably.
Yeah. I mean, it's recorded a lot in that case. Although the last productions we've done, I've tried to incorporate a lot more like live playing into it. So there's a bit of a transition between dancing and playing, which is fun and interesting and difficult.
Yeah,
and sweaty.
I would guess it's pretty challenging. So what's the difference for you approaching composing for I mean, I don't know if you also compose for Bloodshot Dawn in the meantime.
I do.
How it is for you to compose for a metal band with vocals for your solo stuff that is also very, very much metal but doesn't have any vocals, and then what's the difference in approach? How, like, do you have your strict times and say, now I sit down and compose for this project, or
for sure. I there's only been maybe a couple occasions where I've written a riff for Bloodshot and then I realized it wasn't quite like Bloodshot, and I think that's something interesting about having joined the band after the fact, that it kind of has its own identity. And even with the first album I did with them, like that was the first album I'd actually written, so and I wrote a lot of that with Josh, obviously. Like I had to kind of put myself in the headspace to write that music, because it does have a kind of a bit more defined genre, I would say. Let's say like progressive music can be a little bit more forgiving in terms of like what you come up with, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I don't come from the angle that, okay, now I'm writing a progressive thing or now I'm writing a death metal thing, but it's more like, okay, what am I inspired to write? And how does this sound, and where is it useful? So obviously there are moments like that where I just get like let's say inspiration strikes and I have an idea and I'm like, but I kind of see the use for it very quickly. I think with this solo album, I've spent a lot of time just like with the guitar, just trying to figure out what I wanted to actually express sound wise, right? Because there are only 12 notes, but there's an infinite really combination. So it's, you know what I mean? It's sometimes daunting. And I think it helped me to have been in a band where you had a genre, a bit more of a clear genre, to understand that, right? Like I didn't go to music school or something. I did go to school for dance and I have learned a lot about composition. But and they obviously, a lot of these things can be applicable to various media or outlets or art forms or whatever you want to call it. But like I'm not trained to structure songs or something. I've done that through a kind of organic process of practicing and doing it and listening. And so anyway, so like when I'm writing a riff for this album, I definitely was very open-ended. I wanted to see what would come out. Also, like what do I want to do? Like what does my body want to do? What do my ears want to hear when I'm playing? And obviously I had to cut a lot of material. if you work like that, it's like sometimes it just gets too far out, but you start to see what comes out and what is inside of you, and maybe a kind of red line in between that. So I think that's definitely part of the process. And that's why the solo album actually took so long, because I really wanted to find my voice on the instrument. And I think the more I wrote, the more I saw the direction I wanted to go. And the more I saw the direction I wanted to go, either I wanted to contrast it or layer it, or you know what I mean? So it's all about complexity and looking inward, and I don't know. And also just being groovy and like having fun, like, you know what I mean? It's not all technical. It's like, sometimes I'm just sitting around just being like, yeah, like, let's go. So
yeah. One of the singles, I think it's a third track, Gin and Juice. I think it's particularly groovy.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. That's nice to hear. I do like my groove as a dancer and as I grew up as a hip hop fan and stuff. Like I really like hip hop dance and I actually tried to attribute Gin and Juice to the media, at least. I tried to tell them that I do think it comes from my influence of growing up.
That always reminds me of the good lads in Exist Immortal. When I think it was when I saw them for the second time. First time I saw them at Complexity Fest in the Netherlands, 2017. And then I think I saw them shortly after in Munich, and I was hanging out with them after the show, and I was like, guys, how do you come up with such nasty grooves? like way groovier than your average metalcore or prog metal band. And they said, well, we all listen to a lot of hip hop, so that's where funny. That came from.
It's funny. I don't find myself listening to it too much anymore, but like, because when I do now, I find it kind of like sometimes it's a little bit too repetitive for me, like, or at least I just felt like as a kid, like the concept of finding a groove and getting into it and like having that groove for the whole song is pretty interesting, you know? And I think in prog or like in metal or whatever, like what we can do is we can take that aspect of like finding something super groovy and then also contrasting it and then having it and then bringing it back and like, you know,
exactly.
You know, and that's definitely
maybe you have a similar approach in, you know, in the if you look at the huge spectrum of under the prog umbrella, there's also some psychedelic stuff that goes into that direction that is cool. Very repetitive and
sure, yeah. I mean, I love like minimal music and stuff like that as well.
Indulges in the groove as much as possible.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I mean, I love music in general. Like I'll listen to anything if it's good. Obviously, it's very based on your tastes, but I do really like minimal music. If you notice the piano interlude there, Obsidian interlude, it's like just like a piano song that I wrote, and it's just an homage to like actually some really big influences in my life, which is, I would say, Philip Glass. He's like a really big influence on me musically, and I just love to write those kind of like simple but like, you know, you can zone out listening to it. Obviously I made it a bit too complicated because that's how I do things, but yeah, it's just like at the heart of it, I would just love to hear just like a triad arpeggio, just like in sixes for 20 minutes.
that is very Phil Glass.
Yeah.
I remember one of my favorite albums in the last couple of years was Woodkid's S16, and there was like one part I said, damn, that sounds so much like Phil Glass. And then I looked up his Wikipedia page, and then I saw him hanging out with Phil Glass at some symposium about minimal music and stuff. And
okay. Gotcha. Yeah. I danced in an opera of his in Linz.
Wow.
And I got to meet him. I was like, he's such a great guy. So cool.
Wonderful.
You know, this is actually good for any of the musicians out there. You know what? When I came to him and I told him like he was a big influence on my music, and he was like, "Can you read music?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "You should try and learn." That was it. Like I was just like, "Oh my god, dude, this guy is next level." Like he just sees me coming. He's like, "This guy can't read music." Like I'm a guitarist. It's not my fault.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean I grew up learning the cello, so I learned reading music, sheet music, but yeah, a lot of guitar friends never did. They like started with ear and then the tabs.
Sure. I mean, that's the thing. Like I actually how I learned a lot of my guitar playing was just learning solos by ear. If you can learn a Per Nilsson solo by ear, then you're golden. You know what I mean? You know, if you can do it well, obviously, like it, you know, you have all the tools. Let's say I'm a very technical guy. I like to slow things down. And I don't write music out per se in that way, but I do write out a lot of MIDI, obviously, like the drums and bass and like all the synths. I mean, I did everything on the album. So the notes that you're hearing there are created either with MIDI or by me playing an instrument. So you know, it's like, at what point is it practical to know things? Obviously, I would love to just like download that knowledge somehow, someday. But
I can tell from experience that for me, it's when you start an instrument, reading sheet music from a young age, without that much going deeper into
theory or whatever,
I can see the sheet music with the bass clef, and I know immediately where my finger has to go. But I need a second to tell you which note it is.
Sure.
And obviously also like learning a bass instrument, it takes a longer second for me to tell you which note it is in a violin in a treble clef.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, if you're going to be put in those circumstances, then you'll adapt, you know. I think I've always been that, like, maybe if somebody was like, you need to learn, I don't know. I mean, I'm getting a bit far-fetched here. No one's going to come and ask me to learn sheet music for their project. But I mean, who knows? You know, you have musicals and stuff. Like, there's some pretty, you know, they need electric guitar. And I honestly, though, I think I would just learn the notes before and just play it by heart. Like, that's how I've always done it. And I haven't had trouble playing the really technical death metal stuff, which has like a trillion notes, and we play for like an hour. So, you know, it's
I always find it interesting when you have a really skilled session musician, especially on the drums.
Drummers
filling in and then filling in the like prog metal or technical metal environment, and reading, like reading.
Have you seen that? It's true. It's true. There are some videos out there.
I remember Simon Sanders did it for his tour with the Vola. Supporting Catatonia.
Okay.
And
that's impressive, though.
But also like Sebastian Lanzer, who plays with Principal.
Yeah.
And
those guys are next level. They're essentially classically trained metal gurus. I don't know how else to put it. Sebastian, he did the drums on Martin Miller's recent album. He's also a friend of mine. Also in the prog adjacent.
Yeah, he's Austrian, right?
I think yeah. Or Bavarian? I'm actually not 100% sure.
Well, Sebastian is actually on the. He's living in Austria, but there's a lot of Munich. He lives in the closest city to the German border in Austria.
Oh, nice. Okay. Anyway, yeah, it's hard to say. I did live in Linz, and I moved to Munich. So just so you know, I have lived in Munich as well.
All right.
And in Austria, so I'm familiar with the region.
Yeah, Sebastian lives in Salzburg, and
nice.
Jan Zierfeld, the mastermind, in Panzerball. I used to see a lot of Panzerball concerts the last 15 years, because they're playing like 5 shows a year in Munich. And he always said the exact address where, when introducing Sebastian on stage. Very funny stuff. We digress.
Was it Mozart's house? Is that why?
No, I don't know. It was
20-year-old drummer
Vogelgasse something.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't looked it up.
Nice. Yeah, awesome.
We were talking about a lot of cool musicians here, and you started also naming some influences with Per Nilsson and Phil Glass. The two musicians or guitarists that came to mind immediately when listening to the album would be Michael Romeo and Jeff Loomis.
Nice. I was expecting Jeff Loomis. I don't know why. I think I think very highly of myself. Like, he's gonna say Jeff Loomis. I'm sure.
Well, I wrote something down here. In Intrinsic Code, I think that's very heavy. A very, very heavy song towards the end. And yeah, even though I thought about Jeff Loomis before, that was when that's
sure.
Jeff Loomis heaviness.
Yeah, he I think it's a chromaticism in the riff. Like, he's very good at doing some nice chromaticism in his riffs. He likes to use a lot of diminished riffing, which is has a very particular sound. Actually, there are a couple of riffs on the album where I was like, man, this sounds like Jeff Loomis. Like, I love this. The intro riff in Bending Light as well. I think it's because it's diminished. But anyways, yeah. I was just gonna. What was I gonna say? Yeah. Michael Romeo, also amazing. I mean, thank you for comparing me at all to those guys. I will take it, obviously. Guys,
is there any other musical influences that you would like to name? And
the list is long, okay. But I do have to give a shout out to Paul Wardingham, who you may know. He is a big influence on me. Huge. I also took lessons with him for quite some years. It was 10 years ago now, but I took probably 3-4 years of lessons with him, and he really helped me understand. I mean, he's the first person to tell me what EQ was, but I was already shredding his solos and stuff, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of mentoring, let's say. It became a kind of.
So he's based in Australia, right?
Yeah, he's actually originally from the UK, and he's been in Australia, I guess, 20 years or something like that now. Or maybe
I think he plays some like a very industrial kind of prog metal, very.
It's like Fear Factory rhythms with guitar symmetry leads. I don't know how else to put it. I guess that's like his probably some of the stuff people said about his first albums, which is already like over 10 years ago. But I think he definitely has his own sound, let's say. And I think actually you were asking about the vocals. Sorry, I forgot to address that. In terms of actually like writing for without vocals, I think a lot of what I do comes from listening so much to his music, because he's just so good at using melodies in choruses and hooks that you kind of forget that there's vocals missing. You know, there's and I think I've applied that concept in Bloodshot as well. They were doing something similar, maybe a little bit more like technical stuff during the choruses, but I just find that like a good chorus with a strong, maybe even tendency towards catchy melody, or even cheesy or something like that. I don't know. It depends how you want to talk about it. But like, I find that those things can really help a song like meld, and just like it gives the song a purpose, and it gives you a moment in the song to just like have a voice, you know, and not just like a bunch of notes. So I definitely, Paul's a huge influence on me in his songwriting in general, but like especially for his choruses, I would say.
Well, speaking about cheesy, I think with Symphony X, there's a lot of cheesy stuff going on, but I just love it. And it's not even a guilty pleasure; it's just awesome.
Exactly. I mean, what is something that's cheesy? Something that's cheesy or that's melodic to our ears, and maybe on that kind of vocal range. It's just something that we can kind of like easily describe, easily digest. But that's not a bad thing. And like I mentioned contrasts earlier, I do like to have a lot of contrasts. And I think if I didn't have catchy melodies and catchy hooks in the song, I think, it would just be like one long guitar solo, you know? And it's, I don't know, it's like, or a breakdown section. Like obviously there's a lot of riffing on the album. Like I do focus a lot on the riffing. And I think that's also what helps me, you know, just like, okay, I'm going to structure the song in a way that's cool without leads. I did that with every song. I don't think there was a single song where I was like, man, I'm going to write these crazy leads first. No, like I wanted to build songs that had structure, that have, you know, variation, and that's just how I like to write, because I think solos, they can function almost anywhere. Like if you give me any kind of song or sounds, I'll put some melodies on it with a guitar and it will sound fine. Like I don't know. It's maybe a bit,
but I gotta say, a solo can only be as good as the backing track, or it, like if it's an amazing solo and the backing track is boring, the solo cannot shine as it could shine if the backing track or the backing harmonies and harmony changes are. A good example, I think, is the huge shred collabs of Jared Dines. those backing tracks, it's just like the most boring things, riffs, and sure, I mean I don't know if I can even remember seeing one recently, but I do feel like I think he's asked people to like almost make their own backing tracks now sometimes, just to break it up, to get the artists like real vision, and then it's more like a melting pot of people's styles, and then I don't know, but I agree with you. I agree. I don't get me wrong. I love to sit around in my basement and just put on like comfortably numb backing track and whatever, you know what I mean, and just jam. Like that's great. That's so fun, and that's like. But I try to avoid giving too much of that in this album, like of me just being like, oh, I love to play guitar. Like here's a bunch of me playing guitar. Like there's some artists who do great with that, like Buckethead or something, right? Like because he's so, I mean, that guy is like, he's anyways amazing in my opinion. But like, you know, a lot of his songs are just like, okay, I'm going to put out a song today, and it's like just a chord progression for 6 minutes and him jamming on it. Sounds great. But I wanted to avoid that, because I do feel like riffing and just like progressions and song structure, like all those things are very important to me. And I think like something that I do though, for example, I'll have a solo on the chorus section or something, but that also brings a kind of like relevance to the song. Something I'll do, I will jam over and record some improvised ideas. I do a lot of improvisation for my solos anyway. But I'll be jamming over like a riff or whatever, a chord progression. And then when I feel like it's getting boring, I'll just switch it up entirely and then just like change the riff, change key, do something in a way that like allows it to stay fresh. So you're never really listening to the same backing track for maybe more than 30 seconds. I don't know.
My attention span is very short.
I think Jared Dines just dropped an album last week. I think it could be very interesting to check out if there's any musical substance to it. I'm being a little bit harsh, I know, but I just find these YouTube personalities kind of annoying.
Yeah. No. I mean, he's there to please the masses, or what the algorithm thinks the masses want, which is
absolutely
surprisingly dumbed down. But that is the nature. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like I have, millions of people like buying my album or something, right? Like, I understand that also the way that I see music and the way that I like approach complexity or like a kind of progressive concept. Like, I understand that that's not going to be necessarily, let's say, I don't know, status quo. Right, like obviously you can boil things down quite simply, and that's what I like about metal. You can have the most simple stuff, the most groovy simple stuff, and you can have the most complex stuff together. So, I'm not trying to bash on his music. I haven't heard much of it. I know that he did put a lot of work into it, and he had a lot of guests, so that's fun. That's something that everyone likes to do.
I would have been surprised if it was otherwise. You mentioned the variety in the songs, the contrasts, and one other album that's out today that I think a lot of people in the progressive music scene have been looking forward to a lot is Below for David Maxim Micic.
Exactly. Yes, I was already saying it.
Yeah, I just have the T-shirt from the Below T-shirt, and I just listened to it earlier. And
oh no! Don't tell me. Oh, I can't cover my ears with my headphones.
no spoilers, but it's amazing.
I believe it. Yeah, David's great. I did a dance piece with his music. One of my very first dance pieces. Yeah, we're like,
which song?
Just like we did an entire dance piece. It's online. Actually, it's probably not online. I could put it online if people are interested. We had. It was after right around the time of Ego Eco. So we had like Ego Eco. We had Below 3. We had Below 2 songs. I don't know if we had any Below 1 songs. Probably not. But we did an entire dance piece with his music, and it was awesome. Like, it was very inspiring. And at the time, it was like our second piece. So I was a bit nervous to try and create a lot of music. And I thought to myself, man, like, I'm just going to ask some guys. Like, I asked Pliny as well, and Aaron from Intervals. Like, they're all kind of old friends of mine, I guess, from the internet and real life as well. So they just all donated their music pretty much to these dance pieces, which was so cool.
Wonderful.
Unfortunately, no one's seen it. It's like a live performance with like 50 people in it. So, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I love his music. I'm very, very well versed in it.
That's wonderful to hear the stories like this that shows the progressive music community
for sure
being connected all across the world, actually with people in all corners of the world, reaching out and
totally. I'm probably one of the few people who've been to his studio. Actually, I've been to his studio in Serbia as well. Wow. Because there was a short time where I almost joined. Oh my God, what is it? Okay, sorry.
Destiny Potato?
No, Divine Chaos. Divine Chaos? No, that's another band. That's a UK
Chaos,
band.
Chaos. No, Chaos Divine is an Australian band.
No, God, there's too many names with Divinity and
Organized Chaos.
Exactly, Organized Chaos. I have this CD. I almost joined them, so for that album, I think.
Oh, well, interesting.
That's a really long time ago as well. This is interesting to me telling the entire internet this, because I never, mentioned it or anything. But I went there and I recorded some music with them and stuff. But I actually I had just joined Bloodshot Dawn like a month before.
I found it interesting. I saw Organized Chaos at Prog Power Europe, and I had no idea.
With Benjamin?
Yeah. It was with the whole Chilean boys. Yeah. And David on keyboards.
Yeah. So cool.
And I didn't know anything about the band other than they were like originally from Serbia. So was surprised to find out that half of the live lineup was from Chile. That was a little bit weird.
Yeah, it wasn't that convenient. They should have just stuck with me, I'm just kidding. It's also far. So, but no. I mean, Vladimir Lalic, the singer, he's very famous for his work with David's, and he's got some insane vocals. So I was quick to, get in touch with him. I don't know. Actually, we met at Euroblast. Actually, I think we just met in person.
Nice.
And he was super nice and
absolutely no wonderful guy and
amazing artist, amazing visual artist. So cool.
That as well. One of my favorite, one of a lot of favorite memories from Prog Power Europe, like going there for years and years, and like late at night at the castle where everyone is staying, which is kind of like a hostel. He was sitting on a piano and we were like singing Pain of Salvation songs together. That was like,
that's epic. Yeah, that's so cool.
Wonderful. I think we covered a lot of ground and talked about a lot of great music, including your own on this episode.
I have an album. Go buy it. No, I don't know. No, seriously, I just want to mention, guys, I'm doing a giveaway. Okay, I'm giving away a guitar. This isn't a lie. I'm giving away an Ibanez 7-string. All you have to do is share my music video for Terran. My latest music video just came out today. Super happy about how it turned out. It's really very...
How long is it gonna run?
I'm gonna announce the winners end of December.
Okay. So
I have 3 winners because I'm giving away like CDs and T-shirts also. But like obviously nobody wants that. They just want the guitar. So
there's plenty of time. So I hope some people are stuck around for that long to know about it.
Oh no!
they got all turned off like 10 minutes ago.
Podcast is winding down here. I am falling asleep. No.
All right, Morgan, I wish you all the best with the release of Terran, and I do hope to hear more music from you.
Yes, thank you.
See you live at one point, be it with Bloodshot Dawn, Organized Chaos, or
no, I'm not with them. No, I would love to tour my solo stuff. So, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all the coverage and stuff of my album. It does mean a lot. It's my first album, so nobody knows me. And they probably just know me from playing a lot of notes on the internet. But that's only a little bit of what this album is about, okay? That's all I'm saying. Check it out.
Now they'll know you for playing a lot of notes on the album, not only on YouTube.
That's exactly. I do have a really cool classical cellist on one song that you might enjoy that. He's the soloist in the Dresden Staatsoper and stuff like that. So very cool cellist. Other than that, that's my only guest. So I apologize if you're looking for other people's music on my music, but no, anyways, seriously, thank you so much. And I hope you guys enjoy.
Thank you for joining us here on the Progtalks. You guys out there, don't forget to check out Morgan Reid's Terran album and also the giveaway. Share his music video on YouTube.
#IbanezGiveaway. Simple. #IbanezGiveaway.
Wonderful. Don't forget to subscribe to his socials, not only YouTube, but everywhere. You're going to find the links. We're going to put it everywhere, as you know. Also, don't forget to follow and like and subscribe to our channels and get yourself a nice mug, coffee, and all that. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, take care of yourselves and your loved ones and keep spreading that prog love.
Do it, prog.
The Progtalks, produced by the Progspace.